Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the GoodKitty Show, live here today from Cape Town, South Africa, where we're going to be joined by Johnny Foster, lead vocals for Hardwick Circus, and their manager, music icon, Dave Robertson. Thank you both for joining us today. But before we dive into our chat, if I can ask those watching to please share the stream on your socials and let everyone know that we're live. And a quick thank you to our incredible sponsors, The Organized Media and Bitcoin Live DB, who make this show possible. We also got the chat that you guys can pop your comments in. We like to respond to them. We like to know what you're thinking. So please, any thoughts you have, pop it in. Okay, and then also, before I forget, keep watching to the end of the show because we've got a live performance from Johnny coming up to end to close the show out, and you're not going to want to miss it. All right, so welcome, Johnny. Welcome, Dave. It is fantastic to have you both here, and let me make some magic so that you appear on my screen. Hey, Johnny, how you doing?
Hello. I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thank you for joining me in between your sound check and your show tonight. Super awesome to get to chat to you, and welcome to South Africa as well.
Thank you. No, it's a real treat to be here.
Right, I wanted to sort of kick off with where you guys are. I mean, the Sunday Times has called you bulletproof, right? Do you think that the success, because I love to sort of hear stories about how bands came together, how people became musicians, because generally there's a story behind it that is super interesting. It's not like, how did you become a doctor? I went to university for 7 years and then I did that and I did that. There's always some magical story or interesting story about how it all began. So I know that you and your brother used to get up to some crazy antics. He's drums in the band. Um, so let's talk about that. This passion you had for music from an early age, and also, did you know that you wanted to be in a band? And not only that, but a vocalist from young age.
I'm not sure it's something you know or you kind of wake up one morning and just decide on. We, me and Tom were lucky in the sense that when we were much younger for Christmas in England, there's a thing called an Argos catalogue. And it's this really strange shop that you go into and you look at this really, 2,000 page catalogue full of musical instruments, electrical items, vacuum cleaners, every household item you could possibly want. And for Christmas, our parents, from an Argos catalogue, got Tom this very tiny drum kit, as a 9-year-old boy, and myself a guitar. And from that moment, from that Christmas onwards, we were them two kind of annoying brothers on the street, on a quiet road in a place called Carlisle, which is the most northern city in England, just below the
Yeah.
Scottish border. And so in our attic, we set up this little music room. And it was there that we'd rehearse songs that, our mum and dad had played in the house as we were growing up, songs by the Undertones, Teenage Kicks, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, all this great music that was kind of the soundtrack to our childhood in a way. And kind of strange when I think about it now, we were 9 and 11 in the kind of early 2000s, and instead of listening to Kerrang or Scuzz or MTV or getting into YouTube, we kind of had this fascination with this music that was thrown in our face from an early age. So we had these instruments. We didn't really have any lessons, and we kind of from that moment tried to navigate our way to being musicians. So through school, through primary school, there was this yearly concert that our head teacher, a lady called Miss Baskerville, kind of great old name, she'd put on this concert for all the kids to play kind of Ode to Joy on the guitar, kind of Beethoven, or these classical pieces, or play the clarinet or the oboe or the saxophone. And when it came to our chance to play, we thought, scrap that. We wanna play the undertones or the Clash, you know. So we played them songs, and it kind of freaked our head teacher out, and all of our parents, all of our friends' parents that were in attendance. And from that moment, we saw this kind of visceral reaction. Didn't know whether they loved it, didn't know whether it was disgust, didn't know whether they thought, you know, our parents our parents need to send us down a different road or put us into more formal education. But we loved it. We kind of got a bug for it from that moment. So going into
Yeah.
secondary school, me and Tom, you know, played at all the rock nights, and we kind of looked around for musicians. You know, we enjoyed, you know, if we weren't trying to sneak in the pub, it was kind of stealing other people's musicians. Thank you. Someone's just brought me a beer in the dark. So um, so we formed
This
a
is how
band.
we do it in Africa, right? You're outside in the dark.
No,
This
it's
is how we do it in Johannesburg.
no, it's magical. The venue I'm at tonight is the Railways Cafe in Pretoria, and it's the most magnificent venue. It's kind of God, it's so colourful and open and huge, and there's, you know, all the walls are covered in unread books, and everyone's walking around eating fancy beef burgers. So it's my kind of place. But at the back of the venue, there's this incredible garden full of empty bathtubs and burnt out vehicles. So I'm kind of sat in the middle of all that right now, and with my torch lent on a DVD player, so you can see me. But so,
Oh, that's
so
funny.
that's where
Yeah.
we started playing. And coming out of school, you know, we we kind of fascinated, you know, with a lot of the subjects of school, but it was never something we kind of envisioned ourselves, you know, doing to pursue at university or whatever. And so we did that very cliched thing. We left school, we bought a van, and from Carlisle we made a trip to London and played some gigs. And that's how we met Dave and his son Milo. And oh, someone's saying there's no sound. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, magic. So yeah, from that moment we thought this is what we want to do, and we've been lucky enough to play all over England in some really exciting gigs, supporting other bands in prisons, uh, Africa, which is kind of mind-blowing for us.
Yeah, that is a crazy story doing the prisons. How did that even happen?
Well, we play in a place called Whitstable sometimes, which is on the southeast coast of England, and that's a fascinating place. It's kind of in the south coast. It seems like all the kind of old artistic Londoners have moved down there. So it's a thriving place, lots of great art, great communities, lots of good music, good venues. And we played at Whitstable once, right on the sea line. And there was a guy there who was involved at Rochester Prison, which is also in the southeast of England. Rochester Prison. And he would go in and offer kind of art classes. A guy called Tim Cronin. We owe a lot to Tim because he saw us in Whitstable and said, why don't you come and jump on the back of one of my initiatives in Rochester Jail and do a performance for the inmates? Now, none of us had ever been to jail, you know, we're kind of, so
Or
we
so you
thought this,
say.
so yeah, no, I gotta keep that visa open. So we went and played, and it was the most incredible experience like we've really ever had as a band. We played in the prison chapel, and it was 250 inmates with 3 officers kind of nervously stood around the edge of the room, and us kind of lanky ginger lads from the north of England playing rock music to a bunch of prison inmates. And to
Amazing.
begin with, there was this real, like, you could sense there was like a two-way connection that just needed to be caught. You know, everyone was a bit nervous. They're thinking, who do they think they are coming in for a jolly playing us music? And we felt that, and that wasn't the idea. So as the set went on, we would invite inmates onto the stage to play music with us, to rap, to recite poetry,
Wow.
to sing alongside the songs we were playing. And on that first time at Rochester Nick, we were playing a song called When the Chips Are Down, which is like an old Hardwick Circus song. And this guy jumps on the stage and he says, you know, yeah, I can rap. I'd love to, let me at it, you know. And Tom changed the drum beat slightly so it would be more like a kind of R&B rhythm. So it's this R&B
Yeah.
rhythm played to like a rock song, all about like, overcoming any adversity you might find yourself in. And this guy came on and gave the most like spellbinding rap we'd ever heard. It was so spontaneous and in the moment, and it was kind of an inspired thing. And they're
Yeah.
all the great moments. And at that point, us as the band and the inmates as the audience really kind of came together, and we realized everyone's on the same playing field here. We're all just trying to fucking get by. We're all just trying to, have our voice heard on some level, whether you're in an open field or a prison cell. Like everyone still should be entitled to that same thing. So when we did that
Yeah.
and we left the jail with that experience under our belt, we thought we got to do it again, and we organized the prison tour. So we did 15 jails all around England. Same thing. We drive our riot van. So we drive a riot van into a jail, and all the
Oh
inmates thought that
God.
was hilarious, and the kind of guards would be kind of curious as to are they taking the mick? Are they? Anyways, we
I know,
play
what a
and we
crazy
record.
story.
Yeah, it was some of the best times we've had, and we recorded all these jails, and we've released it on a live album called At Her Majesty's Pleasure, which is live recordings in the jails featuring different musicians. We've got rappers, we've got an incredible fiddle player. We have this kind of Africana kind of chant on one of the songs. So it was a really special time. And I think coming out of it, as good a time as we had, we'd encourage other bands to do all that, because being an
Mm.
independent band nowadays, it's not like you can just gig all the time. It's difficult unless you've got kind of a big record company behind you who are going to,
Mm. Mm.
plaster you wherever you want to go. You're constantly having to reinvent yourself and find ways of gigging, because that's what we're a band. We like playing, So be it in a pub
Yeah.
or a theatre or a prison, if a situation should present itself, we're there. And it was a great experience.
What an amazing story. How can we listen to it? Or is it? I mean, is it audio visual or just audio?
Yeah, it's just audio. So it's
So
on
is it on
Spotify and
Spotify?
Apple Music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, on all the platforms. We had tried to video it, but there's a paper called the Daily Mail in England, which is a terrible right-wing rag,
Mm.
spouting a load of nonsense, and everyone was very fearful. What would the Daily Mail readers think? So we couldn't video it
Yeah.
as much as we like, but we want to get it out there. So maybe at some point we can do that.
Yes, this is why we need decentralized media. This is why we need to be able to be our own journalists, so that we're not afraid of our careers being ruined by one crappy newspaper. It's just annoying, isn't it? I mean, I know so many artists who kind of, you have to act, be a certain way, say a certain thing, not allowed this, not allowed that, in case people are like, you know, not happy
Yeah,
with it, and not being able to just do what you want. But anyway, it is what it is. So
no, I hear
um
that. It's like there's never in other, I think in other art forms, be it in like visual art or painting or film, there's a broader scope of kind of freedom in a way, like whereas if you're in a
yeah,
band, you're kind of involved with the culture so prevalently that you're constantly, you're told to kind of live within a certain framework or create in a certain framework. Because it's
yeah,
kind of more mainstream popular culture, whereas that's all rubbish. Like, who cares what people think? Do what you want to do and believe in it, and
yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, one of the things that I think was interesting, historically, was that, before we became so obsessed with, you know, what the media think or what the people think, there was a lot, I think, more freedom historically. It's got a little bit more caged now. And that's what I love about what is going on with Twitter. I use it a lot in the work that I do. And I love the idea that we're moving towards being, our own journalists and having our own commentary and being able to say what we want, but
No,
anyway,
I'm pro. I'm pro. Everyone being there. It'd be nice if it wasn't ran by such a donut. There's a word called a donut, which is a Cumbrian word, which is like, which just like a bit of a high school dunce. Anyways.
somebody who I was reading today, like my son's studying for his exams, and one of the things was like what goes on all the planets, and it's like Mars has got like no air, no water. It's like 100 million degrees. No life will ever survive there, and it's like that's where we're going. We're going to go to Mars, everyone, because it's crazy, isn't
No,
it?
I'd do
Anyway.
that.
Yeah. So I just want to say hi to a few people. Hello, Peter. So lovely to have you here. Gavin as well. Thank you for joining us. Simon. Sure, we've got a lot of fans, I see. Reese is here. Awesome to see you here, Reese. So yeah, lovely to hear your comments as well. Please, if you've got any questions, if you are listening, please pop them in the comments. We are here to speak to you. So um, let's talk about, you mentioned earlier, it was either earlier or when we were chatting off screen about having your own indie label, right? So
That's right.
I'm very fascinated, obviously because of the work I do. I've worked in the music industry for 20 odd years, and I am kind of very much inclined to move further and further away from the what is going on right now. I'm trying to be politically correct about it, but basically death to Spotify. Um, Sorry, did I say that aloud? Basically, I'm just looking at the industry and thinking to myself, look, there must be better ways. I mean, there must be better ways for musicians to earn an income, right? And I want to go there just now as to the joys of that. But let's talk about major labels becoming less and less popular. I mean, it's obvious now. You don't have to even be a musician to know that the media is sort of painting them not so well. So, like you were saying, alternative ways of releasing your music is obviously becoming more and more important. Um, I mean, I know your manager has had a prolific history in the recording industry, so I'm interested to kind of hear um, the conversations you may have had with him and around that sort of thing. But let's just talk about that. Traditional indie labels, digital distribution, streaming services. um, I'd like to have your take on the industry, both positive and negative, and what I think young artists should consider. I mean, that's a huge, big question. So I sort of started rambling on there about what I wanted to ask you. Let's just talk about, first of all, uh, the history. You know, how did we get here? What was it like?
Well, fundamentally, I don't think there is a music industry, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
there's an entertainment industry where major record companies are encouraging people, to wear their mother's wardrobe and get ripped off. Like the music is the last thing on the chain.
Mm,
It's the music is essentially just a marketing tool to sell bits of plastic or to sell statistics or streams. There's no musical vision or interest involved with the major record companies. Um, and I
yeah.
don't think there ever has
It's
been.
like an
And
advert.
it's like an advert. And yes, on one hand, it's never been so easy to upload your music online to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever, and release it and make it yourself. um, but on the other hand, it's so difficult to be heard for that reason, because there's 100,000
Yeah.
uploads every day. And
Hmm.
the major labels enjoy this. They like this process because it means that they don't have to take responsibility for anything. It means they can corner the market with five producers of the moment and sink all their effort into that producer working with one singular artist, spending as little money as possible and making as much return. And it's quite a
Mm,
bleak idea to think about, but they're a corporation. They're big corporations, where the value, be it the music, is the last thing that comes along. And that's kind of one of the reasons we've started our own record company, Alternative Facts Records, because we're from the north of England, and you know, we've always been based in Carlisle. It's a very odd town. We love the place, but it's kind of cornered. It's like you've got Manchester, and then you've got Glasgow, and then somewhere kind of there is Carlisle. And you know, it's not an obvious place to go, but we're fond of it because there's an atmosphere about it, and they're the people that we've always kind of known and grown up around, and our friends, and there's an inherent goodness to them. And there's bands and music that come from this place, you know, Carlisle, Cumbria. But it's very hard for them to get heard unless they go to London or they go to Manchester, and they change that inherent value about what makes them good in the first place. The music's great, and there's something about the area which they come from that is so involved with the things they create. And so the idea of the label is that for our music, you know, for a band called Antics, who went to a school in a place called Wicton, which is where we went to school, a guy called Mark Carruthers, and a few other groups that we're working with at the moment, we want to push that music and let it be heard without, you know, jumping the gun and selling your soul too early on. Because at the end of the day, you know, you can be promised the world by all the bigger companies, but they treat bands like buses. They're like, yeah,
Mm.
you're here now, but in 5 minutes there's going to be another one, and so we're gonna leave you, we're gonna dump you. And in some ways that's kind of good for the artists because it means that they can have the time and the freedom to do what they want to do. But in a lot of cases it's world ending, and you
Mm.
know, at the end of the day, you're not trying. That's not the goal. The goal isn't to be associated with big corporations. It's to find the songs to write, and to write them songs continuously, and feel like you can be on that level where you can create, and you can do that wherever you are and whoever you're with, be it independently or not. And so long as you maintain that idea, um, you know, Kushti, I hope.
Mm. Um, I want to know more about this label. Did you, when you kind of kicked off, were you signed to a major label?
No, we've never been signed to a major label,
Okay.
because you know, major labels aren't signing bands really nowadays. There's a lot
Mm.
of good independents out there in Manchester and Liverpool and some in London, um, and they're putting some really exciting stuff out. There's a lot of good new music, but if you're a band that, you know, is doesn't have the kind of if it, unless you've got kind of a serious backing from the get go, it's
Mm.
quite hard to sustain it financially and in a positive way, because there isn't really a foundation for unknown groups. It's not as if there's hundreds of venues you can go and play at and, you know, afford to pay your rent or you know, put fuel in the van. All the venues are closing down. All the towns are becoming too expensive rates for the venues to afford staying open, and so it means all these
Mm.
places are closing down, and bands aren't left with anywhere to play. And so alongside the label, we've gigged extensively by kind of playing places that bands don't usually go to, and we're trying to set that circuit up so that there is a place, you know, for groups and singers to play their music in a feasible way.
What is the model of your label? Do you yeah, what is the kind of is the business model in terms of how you bringing on new artists? Do you help them with their, obviously you do, you just said, so you help them with their touring, uh
Yeah, of course. So
you help.
we're going on tour when we're back from South Africa on the 2nd of December. We're starting our tour on the 5th of December, doing all the towns in England, 15 gigs in a row. And on that tour, we're taking the young band Antics with us. Um, so that's going to be a great experience for both bands to push each other, you know, to kind of fight for for the best set of the
Yeah.
evening, and that kind of inspires groups to kind of write more songs, because it's a very odd dynamic, you know. It's kind of an unnatural dynamic, but it's when that camaraderie ticks, real kind of exciting things can happen. So we're excited for the
Mm.
tour with them. uh, and you know, me and Tom, we've been producing a lot of the bands. We've got a studio in Carlisle where we can record, and with that, you know, we're kind of arranging the songs and producing. And one of them has just been a song called King of the Fells, which is by a guy called Mark Carruthers. He's written this brilliant ballad about a legendary fell runner. Fell running in England, these guys would do kind of, you know, 60-mile kind of runs over the fells, extreme kind of feats of agility. And Mark has written a song about one of the most legendary guys in that area called Joss Naylor, and it's called King of the Fells. And he played it to us. And me and Tom in our studio, we built it up, we produced it. We added violas, fiddles, mandolin, dobro guitar from lots of different Cumbrian musicians. And yesterday that got played on Radio 2, BBC Radio 2, which is like the big radio station in England. So that was really wonderful to see that, with that attitude and with that persistence, you can get to a point where people start to pay attention.
And then, right. So I want to, it's really for me, this kind of, to move forward, for the industry to move forward, for things to change, and this is what I keep asking myself day in and day out, do we just like break it all down and build it all up from the beginning again? Because the models have kind of never really changed. I mean, the way we create it, the way we consume it, the way we distribute it, that's all changed. But the relationship between a record label and the artist, or even the artist and Spotify, what do we do? And that's, coming to somebody who is sort of looking for new ways to kind of embrace the industry.
Well, that is why I'm interested in your kind of Bitcoin proposals and like ways of monetizing it in new ways that's beneficial for the artist. So I am keen to hear about that.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about, before we do that, because I find as well, it's such an interesting thing that when I start talking to people, like just random people in the world, about Bitcoin and building music on Bitcoin, within 3 minutes or less, they've like glazed over and they're like, okay, please, can she stop talking? And yet when I talk to musicians, they are the only people that I speak to that go like, what? You mean we can make money from music, right? So tell me about that and how do I do it? So it's really exciting for me. I love it. But before we do that, I want to say, how do bands make money? For the people that are listening right now, today, do bands make money? And if so, how do they do it? And if not,
well, yeah, no,
how do they do that?
Well, the majority of bands don't make money.
Yeah.
If you think you're a 5-piece band and you're from the north of England and you've got a gig in London, there's a huge fuel expense going there and back. And you've got to find some accommodation. Every band member needs some cash just to get by. There's kind of equipment hiring that comes into play. If it was booked by an agent, they're taking a percentage. Or if you're with a record company, they'll be counting every penny. And so you're left kind of wondering, well, how the hell do you get home? And it's difficult. It's really hard. There's a kind of level of determination that that bands have to have that I think doesn't get talked about very much. It looks all glazy and glorious on the front of it. You're playing, you're doing all these gigs, and it is fun. It's a great time, but it's not like you're raking it in, and you don't do it for that reason, obviously. But a lot of the venues you play, the venues can't afford to pay a decent fee for the group, and I understand that. You'll have a small bar, you'll have a tiny little bar on a high street in a big city, and down the road there'll be a Tesco's or a Morrison's, a supermarket. And that little bar will be paying the same business rates as the big supermarket chain. And just things, so it's much deeper than just the music industry. There's a whole cultural thing in England which makes it nigh on impossible to keep going. And so it's no surprise that there isn't a lot of kind of burgeoning groups at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff online, and that's wonderful. But there's something about being involved with the kind of a lot of my favorite British bands inherently involved with that kind of British culture, where that the internet has kind of came in from one side and pushed that out. So there's a kind of superficial element to it now that everyone sees online. But it's knowing, when I remember growing up, it was fascinating reading I had this big pink hardback book about the Clash, and seeing them at the kind of the height of their fame, kind of diarying the trials and the tribulations that they had, just getting to a gig. That's kind of what being in a band is. But how do you afford to do that? And yes, so putting the power back in the artist's hands, where they're getting 1,000 players on Spotify and making 30 pence. The whole thing's a criminal enterprise.
Yeah, it is criminal.
When I think,
it's I speak about it often when I do these shows, that I've been sort of at loggerheads with Sony Business and Legal for, I don't know, 10 years. And I realized that all they are law firms with a tiny marketing department. That's kind of what they've become, protecting catalog. And the whole 360 degree, when they did that whole 360 degree, and it was just like, are you actually joking? You mean you can't make money now from selling music, so you now want to take our money from touring? It's crazy shit.
No, it is. And you hear that story, of Liam Payne, our guy from One Direction, who unfortunately died last month. Tragic set of events, and the idea that only 10 years ago or so, these young boys are being put on television and kind of signing their life away, not knowing, quickly here, sign here, not having a clue about what to do. And then, they break up, and then they're left to deal with it without a support network around them. And that's extremely sad. And the idea that, Simon Cowell, he'll be having all these other artists that didn't get anywhere on his television show. They'll have got past the first round, and they do for a period of time. They're playing in a tiny pub in the back end of Beyond to
trying
10
to
people,
make it.
Trying to make it afterwards, trying to do a gig, and you can bet your bottom dollar there'll be someone there, claiming their percentage on that tiny little. And
It's
something has
got
to
to
change.
Look at us, we said it at the same time. It's so diabolical. I mean, I write about it, I speak about it. I've been trying to figure out, like, and my feeling is, we have to break it. We have to completely shatter it to the ground and rebuild it, right up from the absolute bottom of the bottom again. And so I've kind of put together, and I mean, we'll talk about this obviously off the show as well, but we've created I've created blockchain music, and I've called it a sound network because I'm trying to get away. I don't want to use the word record label. I don't want to use anything that we used in the past. So not only really trying to rebuild it, but also change the vocabulary so that it's just different. And so we've got blockchain music, which is a sound network, really just people all coming together to share in the growth of the music industry, creating a network that just extends and on and on and on and on. To build a creator worth income, an income that is worthy of the creativity that's going on, right? And we're doing it on Bitcoin, on a layer 2 called Stacks, because Bitcoin itself, it needs a layer on it to enable us to do these kind of things. And I'll explain this all through. And anybody who's listening, who's also interested, who can reach out to me, can reach out to you. I'm happy to do calls about it. I'm really so passionate about helping people understand what is going on here. And we have Gary Rogers just built a platform called Gated. It is crazy awesome. I'll show it to you. And we started selling the first album on Tuesday. We opened it up. So it's kind of just there's so much going on, like underground, like anything. I mean, you have to build it first. It's half the time it's broken what we're making, but it's getting there. It's getting there, and I think it's going to be so exciting because, like you say, no making music from recording it. I mean, merch is a very difficult thing unless you're selling it at your shows, sending it anyway. Oh, here it is. This is what it looks like. So this is how you can buy the tracks.
Yeah.
You click on them, you get a 30-second clip. That would be your crypto wallet that you have to connect. So you press buy, connects to your wallet, and then the artworks are all made by we can listen to something. Yeah, you have to. That's another thing. Like, you can't stop the player. You have to just let the 30 seconds, because it's being coded and built like as we find the problems. But there it is. It's a little player, and you can either buy the whole album, or you can buy track by track. And then we got really well-known artists to create a different artwork for each of the songs, inspired by the music. So in your kind of wallet, however you want to look at it, you have these beautiful artworks and you have incredible music. And I really want to. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to go back to, first of all, the hard part is teaching people to pay for music, and to remind people of how it used to be, where you love to hold the artwork. You got something more than just an MP3, So it's going to take a while, but I think it's important that bands like you are also just bucking the system, trying to think of new ways in which to make it interesting and exciting. But I think it's really important to start putting the tools in the hands of the bands to be able to educate their audiences about this.
No, absolutely. I think when bands start putting music online, there was a big uproar saying it would kind of depersonalize it in a way. But I think now, with all this opportunity to sell, be it NFTs or to kind of offer extra things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to offer if there wasn't like platforms like this or Patreon or that kind of thing. Yeah, it's a way. It's a kind of it's just a great way to allow people to get to know the artist.
That's
And
right. That is exactly right. Because once you sell that NFT, you have a connection to that fan, and they have a connection to you for time immemorial. Never goes away.
yeah,
No one can lose it. So you can have somebody come to your show tonight, and they buy all your tickets with NFTs. Before the show's finished, you can have, at almost zero cost, your latest single. I mean, obviously the cost of recording it, in their wallets, which means you can also add a slight premium onto your tickets, not as much as one would pay for a single, but everybody's buying it knows that they're going to get the single, and they're going to be the only people who get it for, whatever period of time. You can sell merch, you know,
yeah,
uh, ways of selling merch. You can send demo tracks through to people. So you can say, right, if you are a subscriber, because we're looking at developing subscription services, you're a subscriber, you're going to get, a special demo copy. So this relationship doesn't end, when you are shaking their hand after a show. This relationship goes on forever and ever and ever, and they can pass it down to their kids. Whoever owns that wallet has a connection to you. It is so incredible, that I think when the world finally cottons on, I think music is going to be one of the things that really helps the shift into a blockchain future, you know.
And so for a divvy like me, could you explain how does the payment work for that then? What's the process though?
Basically, it's peer to peer, which means they have a wallet and you have a wallet. And the
Yes,
minute
yes.
they press pay, the money appears in your wallet.
Yeah.
So you sell it in real time. So say right now we decided, okay, we're going to put a song of yours on Gated. The moment somebody buys anything, the money goes straight into your wallet.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's
fast.
crazy. And it doesn't
No
matter
middleman.
where you are, nothing. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. So say you want to send money from the UK to Africa,
Yes.
it's just
Hi there.
like
Sorry.
one
All good?
second.
We've got time. We've got to do things. Come on.
Okay, sure.
Come on. It's over.
I'm being called. I've got to go and play this gig.
All right. Do you want to? Have you got time to give us a little tune, or you got to go?
Yes, I can do a very quick tune. No problem. No problem.
Yes, and I just want to say before we go, Reese, thank you for joining us. Lewis, Simon, Peter, and Tim also put a great message. I'm just looking for it. And he just said, thank you to Johnny. Not many acknowledged me, just by coincidence tuned in. Officers were
Oh,
nervous
good.
because we had arranged the visit. I had to charge around and try and get you. Somehow the prison trusted me with keys. All the best. So how cute is that?
That's really nice. Tim, hi if you're watching.
Yeah. All right.
Oh,
So,
amazing.
guys, a huge privilege. Just before he's got to go on stage, Johnny from Hardwick Circus is going to give us an acoustic tune. What is it called?
This is called Walking on Broken Glass, and it's from my first record, The Borderland. Not too sure how it's going to sound, but I'm going to put the headphones on here and hope it picks me up all right. Are we good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
There's no two ways about it. There's no easy way out. Don't keep it in your head, keep it silent. Spit it out. Your living is easy. You got something to live for. Whoa, it don't always have to be this way. Walking on broken glass. Oh, there must be more to life than this. Walking on broken glass. Whoa, walking. Don't you gift me your crisis and burden my youth. I'm not into growing symmetry, but growing truth. So you tell me you don't believe me. You got something to live for. Whoa, it don't always have to be this way. Walking on broken glass. Oh, there must be more to life than this. walking on broken glass, walking, struggle and strive, keep it alive, running out of time. Oh, I'm running, keep on running. We walk on, we walk on. It don't always have to be this way. Walking on broken glass. Oh, there must be more to life than this. Walking on broken glass. Whoa, whoa, walking, walking.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you hear me? It was amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, we're going to have to love you and leave you and let you be on your way so that you can go and continue to perform animes audiences. I'm sad I can't be there tonight, but I'm sure I'll get some footage because maybe I know your manager. I mean, the booking agent. All right. So yeah, look forward to doing it again. Hopefully sometime where you're not stuck outside under the African sun, the African moon. Yeah, to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth interviews and performances here on the GoodKitty Show. And you can follow me on Twitter as well for all the latest in blockchain music. All right. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Love talking and finding out about it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we must definitely do it again, right?
Yes,
and
definitely.
I'm happy to help on board you, teach you more about it. I absolutely love doing it. So it will be my pleasure.
Magic. Thank you so much.
All right. Cool, man.
Have a good
See you
time.
next time. I'm
Yes,
GoodKitty. Thank you for watching. Bye.